And the way we structure everything is customer service and what the customer wants. So first of all, we're providing a martial arts experience, and each person's experience will be different. So you need to tailor each program you have around that. So if your kids program, you need to have the parents on board. If you have someone who wants to be a competitor and become a combat sports athlete, we need to have that program detailed. If you have someone who just wants to come in and do some training. So we're offering a martial arts experience, but with the key point is clear and concise customer service.
Hey there, George Fourie. Welcome to the Martial Arts Media Business Podcast. We're on episode 115, and a bit of a different structure of a podcast for you, but great guest and some great content. So why the different structure? Over the weekend, we ran our Partners Intensive event. It was a school owners event for martial arts school owners all around the world who are clients of ours. So it wasn't an open event, although we did hand out a few invitations to a few lucky school owners who joined us and got some great value out of the weekend as well. So ran the event online, which, look, this is the cool part about it online, is we had school owners from United States, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand, right? 5 different countries all around the globe. And this made for really great mastermind sessions, great conversations between school owners. And it was an epic event. So really thankful for the weekend and everybody that attended. So one of my guests, Kevin Blundell, was on previous podcast guest, episode number 20. You can have a listen to that. And so I invited Kevin along for round 2 podcast. And the event was coming up and I said, look, why don't we actually just have you at the event and we can run the podcast as a podcast interview, but more importantly, we can have our guests ask you questions. And that really changed the flavor of the podcast. Great questions about scaling with multiple schools, how to structure the business, how to pay staff, how to do your staff training, etc., etc. So real good value. Kevin Blundell is from Kumiai Martial Arts Systems, and I might just mix up the numbers, but it's 23 locations, I believe. About half of them are full-time, and they're approaching just about 2,000 students. So really successful school owner and just a wealth of knowledge and just a really wonderful human being, really generous in everything that he shared. So you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Now, there's one snag out of this interview. As luck would have it, I've just moved offices. So if you look at this and it looks a bit crazy, it's like day one in my new office. So please don't judge from stuff all around the background. The office was my last weekend in my office in the city. And as luck would have it, the day that I run the online event, the entire building's power went out. And luckily I had a lot of backups, phone, internet, mobile, etc. So we managed to pull through. And 5 minutes before Kevin logged on, the entire building's power went out. So I thought I'd lost everyone at the event, but I managed to log back on in Zoom, and I walked around the office recording the podcast, muting in between that, you couldn't hear the fire alarms and things going off in the background because of the power outage. But anyway, if you see a bit of craziness in the beginning, just, look past that, look for the gold in this episode because there's a lot of it. So anyway, here we go. Enjoy the episode. I'll speak to you soon. Good day, Kevin.
Good morning, Brett. How are you?
I'm just on mobile right now. So we got Amandeep in the UK, Ben and Shane from AKA. We got Lindsay. We got Cole.
Lindsay.
We got Kim and Richard from Canada. We got Matt from Victoria somewhere. We got Michael Scott and Peter from New South Wales. We got Grant from Politz. We got Sam and Kylie. We got Tom Cooper. We got Zach from Perth. And we're all excited to hear of you. And Kevin, when I said, let's jump on, the entire whole building in Perth shut the power down. So as you do. So, but we're ready for you. And so we're going to improvise. First up, Kevin, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So I don't have my notes in front of me, but what I can tell you is Kevin is one of the most respected martial arts school owners that I personally know. We worked together quite some time ago, and we keep in touch every so often. I really love chatting to Kevin, hearing his perspective of how he views his organization. So, guys, you've got Kevin for about 50, 60 minutes. I want you to make use of the time and ask as many questions as you want. But I'm going to lead a few things that we want to talk about, how Kevin views his organization, how he views delivering a world-class experience to his students, and then for you guys looking at scaling to multiple locations, 23 locations, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yep. So we can dive a bit deeper into the structure and how that's going. So thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, George.
Cool. So I guess just a quick, a little quick introduction, just a bit to fill in the gaps where I might have missed. Just a bit more about you and Kumiai.
Yeah, sure. Well, we're based predominantly in New South Wales, Queensland, and the ACD. My background is I started in martial arts in 1969, boxing and judo, because karate was too deadly. Then went into karate, then the kickboxing, Muay Thai, BJJ, the whole thing along the way. And we just started our own organisation in 1989 in Orange. And we just started off a very small group of people, and we just slowly grew from there. Primarily, we grew organically. We didn't really have any master plan. I was working as a builder. Then I took up a government position with fair trading, and then senior building inspector. So it was just pretty much what you would classify as just a hobby, a little part-time enterprise on the side with no real ambition. It wasn't until 2010 decided to go full-time. Or from 2011, we went for full-time, and subsequently we've grown out to 23 locations and just quite a few students across those locations.
All right, perfect. So now, I mean, going from the 1 to 23, there's obviously a lot of details and gaps in there. I guess going from 1 to 2, what are the core decisions you made that you felt, all right, this is a real business, this is a real thing, and how did you adjust your thinking and your strategy from?
Well, initially, I just wanted my background was I used to just do my martial arts for enjoyment. I've been doing it all my life. My father was also a martial artist, and so I just sort of, when I was a kid, I was training, and when I turned 8, we started training regularly and formally. And so it's just sort of like something I always did. I explored other sports. I used to race motocross and played most competitive sports at different stages and different levels. And then I just went into, I liked the competition side. It was very popular through the late 70s and 80s. And then I just was more like it was just a social thing. And then I realized that, well, I can spread the word a little bit further if we have more locations. So like-minded people decided to join us. So we didn't really have any structure, any format. It was like, I suppose we were just all sailing on the same lake, and we said, hey, let's sail together over there. So it was pretty ad hoc, no real structure. And, we weren't looking to, save the world or take over the world with martial arts. We were just enjoying what we're doing. Then we slowly developed from that point. And then I went, whoa, hang on, I better get this a little bit more formulated. And so about 1990, I started to design things in a more corporate structure. And then it just sort of grew from there. And when we went full time, well, that's when we blossomed out. So when other people would just be sort of like, I use Brett as an example. I say, hey, what are you doing up there? Oh, we're doing this. You want to do something together? Yeah, why not? And we sort of did it under the same umbrella, and then we grew from that point. So that's how we sort of come. So it was pretty much, accidental, got to this point, really. It was more purposeful from 2011 onwards, and our focus has been providing good service ever since.
So let's talk about that, Kevin, because we spoke a bit about it the other day, and you were really defining on the type of experience that you deliver and paying attention to finer details. And although you mentioned, it's kind of flowed from there, but there's a lot in that, right? Because it's like you have organic growth, but it's very strategic in that way because there are little things that are setting you apart from what everyone else is doing. You want to maybe dive a bit deeper into the type of experience and how you guys go about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you need to have systems, we all know that. There's electronic systems and that, but the bottom line is you need to view everything from the inside out. And the way we structure everything is customer service and what the customer wants. So first of all, we're providing a martial arts experience, and each person's experience will be different. So you need to tailor each program you have around that. So if you're a kids program, you need to have the parents on board. If you have someone who wants to be a competitor and become a combat sports athlete, we need to have that program detailed. If you have someone who just wants to come in and do some training. So we're offering a martial arts experience, but with the key point is clear and concise customer service. So you need to, what we do is we have training for everything. We have every detail for every process, and all staff use the same process at all locations.
Right. And guys, just check in, right? This is your opportunity to ask anything that is on your mind or what you want to elaborate, Kevin, to elaborate on. So, and just for some context, this was going to be a podcast interview, and we decided to schedule it this way so that you guys can get the benefit of having this type of interaction. So, please add to the questions. What would you say, because you guys operate your main Port Macquarie location, very small town, although you have a thriving business there, and also what's probably a premium service, right? It's not the cheapest of the services. How do you frame that, and how do you position yourself in the market to stand out, and where pricing is not as much as an issue for the services and the value that you deliver?
Well, I think the most important thing is if you want to be paid as a professional, act like a professional. People aren't interested in how many belts you got or what titles you won and how many medals and trophies you got and how many killers that you've trained and all the rest of it. That went out in the 80s and, along with mullets and Holden cars, sadly, so which I hate both of. So, so you need to reframe and look, if you want to, provide a professional customer service. Okay, I'll give you an example. World Gym, most people have heard of that. They'll come to a town and they'll set up a franchise, and they have a slick process where they locate the building, purchase the building or lease the building, set up the building, pre-frame what they're going to do in the community, what services they're going to provide. Our most recent model, we put a new facility in Western Newcastle. We got a brand new building. We leased the building. My business, I'm a builder by trade, so I set that up using my skills. And we started right in the middle of COVID. Like COVID was raging when we started on the first week of August last year, and we've moved to 95 current financial members with our minimum payment of $150 per month. So it's about good leadership, determination, and having clear and concise systems in place that you follow. So we don't get into anything other than making sure we provide the service that we say we're going to provide, and we have people trained to deliver that service. So obviously you need to have skilled martial artists teaching your class, and you need to have skilled people doing your administrative work out the front. Now, sure, we all start off like I'm not too proud. I was doing the cleaning during COVID. It was a real good leveler, bring you back down to earth. But, it was an opportunity to redefine everything we did and reset and restructure. I understand some of you folk are still under strict lockdown around the world, and it's terrible, but, there is light at the end of the tunnel, that's for sure.
Perfect. So, guys, quick check-in. What are you getting from this? If you can use the chat as every time you pick up something that's useful and that you can use the chat. That'll give me a good guidance as well on where we can steer the conversation further. All right, perfect. So Want to touch, and we can jump back onto this, but how do you go about structuring your organization? I think actually before I ask that, you mentioned something in our chat on Wednesday, I believe it was, and we spoke about the way you view your organization. Can you elaborate a bit on that, and for a hint as well, talking about the whole country club type of perspective?
Okay, sure. Well, look, I'm not saying anyone's not a professional. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying what we do and how we go about our business. So initially, martial arts to me was a fun thing as a kid. And then it was like a cool thing to do as a competition and win trophies and have good fun doing it. Then it was like a hobby, and then it was a social thing. And then it was like semi-professional business on the side. But I had to take responsibility and realize I'm running a corporation. It's a multi-million-dollar corporation that has tentacles across 23 locations, and we're responsible for thousands of people, well-being and providing the service that we're going to do. So you need to have clear and concise structure. So we have a corporate head office, which is also based here at Port Macquarie. And then each location, I own some, I half share in some, and the rest are all under license. And you need to make it so the people who are under license are getting value for being part of your group and organisation and being well supported through that process. So the overarching thing is, if you're happy with just a single dojo or single school, and you're doing it with your partner or a business partner, and you're getting an income and you're enjoying your lifestyle, that's good. At my point, I've never had aspirations to grow to be some monolithic martial arts organisation. It's always been about, hey, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Yes, I am. Am I helping people better themselves? Yes, I am. Am I giving people opportunities? So we have 85 people who work full-time across all our schools. So we're employing a lot of people. And then we have dozens and dozens of people kids after school come in and help in class. So that's probably, that's why we need to run it properly, and you need to be responsible and follow everything, as per good business acumen.
All right, perfect. And then you mentioned looking at country clubs as an inspiration. Why is that? Okay.
When I was in America, I did a talk. I've been a few times and done some talks with the EFC group, and Brett's heard me rave on a few times. So he never fell asleep in any of my seminars, so that's good. So when I was over there, I met some very wealthy and successful martial artists. They're a little bit opposite to us. They love to flaunt their Lamborghini and take you to their holiday mansion and take you out in their yacht and all that sort of stuff. Whereas, we like to keep ourselves a little bit quieter and just let our successes bubble in the background. Anyway, one guy took me to a country club, like it was, like a golf course, tennis, all that sort of stuff. And it was, really flash. And it impressed me. And I said, oh, so what do you do to get in here? I said, you just come in. He goes, oh, no, sir. No, you have to be pay to be on a waiting list. I said, pay to be on a waiting list? Seriously? He said, yeah. And he said, then you have set fees. And apparently the one I went to, which was really nice, was an El Cheapo one. But I come away thinking about, what if we all approached our martial arts a little bit differently? Swimming lessons are important. We all know that, guys, and martial arts is just as important. So we should be viewed a little bit differently than just, some people who, that over there thing is another thing to do. So we changed our mindset to be like, well, to be a little bit more exclusive, and that you can't just rock up and join in and have a free class or anything like that. You have to go through a process and to be analysed to see if you fit into our community in a positive way. Conversely, it gives the potential student an opportunity and their family to see if they are happy with the service we are providing. Then they may go and try the next guy down the road, and that's okay too. We encourage that. We actually encourage that because we only want people who are committed and who are going to participate within the guidelines that we have and follow our systems.
So you would never go into a price war?
Well, the quickest way to go broke is to go cheaper than the bloke down the road. In a number of our locations, we've been taken on in a price war. Even had one guy march up to us when we opened the location. He said, "This town isn't big enough for another martial arts school, and I'm the leading one here." And he was right when he went broke a year later, because he engaged in a price war. And so every time he put his price down, I put mine up.
Great. So for any of you guys doubting your pricing, there's some good advice. So on that, how do you frame that? Like, if you, in a conversation, if somebody is going down that route and poking at other people being a martial arts school and inverted commas, and at less of the price, how do you go about handling that?
Well, first and foremost, let me qualify. Anyone that teaches martial arts and puts up their shingle and they're honest toilers, I take my hat off to them. It's like anyone that steps on the mat, in the ring, in the cage, whatever. I admire that. I've had that journey myself, and it's good fun. But back to what we're talking about here is that, first and foremost, if people want to shop around, that's their prerogative in choice. Some people will buy a really cheaper version car and they'll be very happy and satisfied because it works within their means. Some people will buy a BMW and Mercedes-Benz because it works within their means, and then everything run in between. So when I say about being professional, I believe if everyone's an honest toiler and doing the best they can, they're professional. You got to remember, guys, if you charge $1, you're in business. It's the right dollars that you got to charge. That's what you need to remember. With our organisation, we focus on making sure we have everything professionally done. So someone comes in and our staff are trained to talk to them and extrapolate the correct information out of them of what they really are there for. So we don't go into any pricing discussion at all. And if they ask, we quite happily tell them we don't have an issue with that at all. However, we're more about filling the need that they have. You got to remember, anyone that's called you, sent you a message, come into your school, they're already halfway there, if not 2/3 of the way there. So you need to be grateful they've made that contact, and you need to treat them exactly how you'd like to be treated in any customer service environment. So that's the way we go through the process. And then what we do is that we listen. We listen to what their needs are, and we discuss their needs, and we don't even talk about tuition fees or anything. And we just explain that we have a 2-week trial. This is how we go through it. And most of the time, most people don't concern about asking about the price. If they ask about the price, you should give them exactly what it is and everything they've got to pay for, so there's no hidden costs.
Love that. So real value-based pricing, it's not what you deliver, it's really the outcome that you're trying to serve and where you want to.
Well, we have a saying, if any of our staff are selling, they're sacked, because we do not want to sell a martial arts program. We are storytelling. We're telling you about what martial arts, everyone here will know how martial arts feels for them and the journey they've been on to get to the point they are at now. And once you can harness the feeling into words, then you have a much better way of getting people to enroll in your school. You want them to enroll in your school to be educated in the way that you run your organisation and the programs that you have. You don't want them to think they're just coming to kick some bags, because they can go to the local gym, get a $15 membership, go and do weights 24/7 and kick and punch bags all day long. Okay, so you want to be, we're selling a martial arts program.
I love this, but what I'm more intrigued about is, how do you replicate that type of skill amongst your staff? Because if you're saying storytelling and not selling, right? So we're all telling stories. How do you get your staff to engage into that level of enrollment, that they are storytelling and telling stories?
Well, let's translate it to martial arts. It doesn't matter what style or system of martial arts. Generally, everybody does something that has graduation involved. Belts, badges, T-shirts, brochettes, sashes, there's big furry hats that are different colours, whatever. Everyone has a progression through the martial arts. So with the staff, they need to be also given progression. So you start staff at a lower level and you have training, just like you have training for your next belt or your next badge or whatever system you use. But we use belt for the point of the exercise here discussing. We train people with scripts, and then the scripts are then revised constantly. And then we have a lot of meetings online, but not all the time, not inundated. And then we have gatherings many times throughout the year where we get together. But the most important thing is rehearsal. Okay. And this is where a lot of people fall over. They go, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll go through this script with my staff. Yeah, let's rehearse it. Okay. So we have and most of you have heard of it, phone script rehearsal and all that sort of stuff. The consistency is the key, because your staff will go off script very quickly if you don't keep them on script. So you need to make sure they're following what's it. And they're not robotic. They've got to be fluid and flexible. So the more senior they are, the more experienced, they can answer questions seamlessly. But we actually sit down and have rehearsals on how to take a phone call, how to answer a message, how to address someone when they come in. And we practice. And the results come in from there.
Love that. So somebody, I think it was Alan, was asking about staff training and how you go about it. I'll just pull up the question here, but you do staff training that's super valuable of actually how to do the enrollment, the scripts and so forth, because that is your first point of contact. So that's arguably one of the most important points of the training. But what else do you lean towards with the type of staff training that you do and the depth that you go? And it was Sam who asked. And Sam, if you want to elaborate maybe a bit deeper than that, just ask that in the chat.
Yeah, so in terms of staff training, obviously having 23 locations, you've got clear systems to produce more people like you, and then obviously lower level instructors, assistants, student leaders down from that. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how that's structured, and even maybe how you go through after the training and pick and choose who are going to be the head instructors that are going to manage your facilities.
Sure, Sam. Thanks for the question. We have some historical owners. So if you like, the organisation's in two parts. We have 10 full-time centres, and then we have, I think it's 4 part-time centres, and the rest are in community or school halls. So we sort of focus on the top 14, if you like, for everything. But everyone follows the same system. So, for example, in a community or a school hall, the guy or the gal might work in a full-time job and they just teach 2 nights a week. So I classify them as part-time hobbyists, but they're still part of our organisation, and the numbers all collate together. The rest, so my main focal point is for people with the permanent setups who've made big financial commitments. So we want to make sure they get a return on investment and they are able to do that. So our systems, once you have a full-time centre, you do that. So we have a leadership program. So we'll talk about 2 sides. So the martial arts side, pretty much like everyone else does, have a leadership program, and then you have different levels of instructors. So like you might have obviously assistant instructor, class instructor, a lead instructor. They lead a group of classes. If you have multi-floors in your location, or you might split your class in 2, whatever. Then we have an instructor coordinator, and their job is to coordinate the rostering, the staffing, and look after the whole area. So some of these jobs are very casual. They all have been casual, very few hours a week, and we have many that are full-time, as we mentioned earlier on. So, and then obviously you have the school owner, or you might have a manager in there. So we have a manager in some, but most are school-owned. Okay, so that's the sort of the martial arts side. On the business side, we replicate that, where in the leadership program, we identify at a young age if someone's going to be good to either go into our administrative role or a marketing role or an instructional role. Some do both, obviously, And then we have training programs for them. So you might come into our facility, say here, and you'll see a young lady or young boy they'll be 14 or 15, and they'll come in and they'll welcome you, and they'll say, "Oh, hi Sam, your appointment is at 4:45. Please come over here, sanitize your hands, because of COVID and all that sort of stuff. Have a seat, and we'll have the person come out, going to talk to you, and then they'll come out and get the person and go from there." So they're learning to be communicators and then go from there. And then we have people who can run the whole front office or the front desk, and they're the ones who make appointments and set up the trials, set up the enrollments, discuss any things that are happening or need to happen. So it's structured that way. So then we have, obviously, if you have a junior leadership team program, I think they're all pretty much the same, and everyone just adds a bit of spit and polish how they see it should run and that. But the key is, just like everyone says, if you don't keep developing staff and that coming through, or the people coming through, well, you can lose a lot. Like here at Paul Macquarie, we had we're really good staff that some took up positions, and when COVID hit, they moved to maybe Newcastle or Sydney or Brisbane or something for work, or went off to uni and that. And we lost like 8 key staff in a 12-month period. But we're still powering along because we had enough depth and we had enough training for those people to step into those roles. So you have a little bit of a bump in the road, but you just keep on trucking. So I hope that answers your questions, Sam.
Yep,
Sam,
thank you.
Anything else you want to ask in relation to that?
No, that's good.
All right, perfect. While we're going around and while Sam was asking a question, anyone else got a question? If you just want to unmute.
It's not really a question, but g'day, Kev.
G'day.
I don't know, sat through something that you were having a talk in Sydney there a couple of years ago with, and you said that when you opened up a new venue, you used a chocolate wheel that to attract people, when you were advertising. I'll be really honest with you. After that session that you did, I actually went out and bought a chocolate wheel, and the next event we had, I used it, and I could tell you the amount of kids that come over that got a free chocolate or a free pen or a free some damn thing was unbelievable. And we've still got a whole stack of those students that we signed up from that event simply by coming over with that chocolate wheel. It was amazing. We've still got it and we still use it.
Great stuff. I'm glad it worked for you, Lindsay.
Yeah, thanks.
When I'm down that way next, I'll come and get a chocolate off you.
I don't think at our age, Kev, neither of us need chocolate, probably.
Nah.
Hey, you're not dead yet, guys.
Oh, dear.
Can I jump in, George? Is that okay?
Yes.
G'day, Kev.
G'day.
I'm Ben. So I've started up a second location, so I'm just sort of feeling my way through some of this stuff, and it's in a community centre. The guy I've got running it, I've actually got on a small commission basis plus his hourly rate.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him invested in it, and he is invested in it. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about how you structure, part-time, full-time, people that come in once a week on casual rates, people that are, using it as their career. What sort of steps and levels and remuneration stuff do you?
Yeah, 100%. Well, we use the Fitness Industry Award as our base, and I think that's pretty much, from my understanding from the boys at Fair Work I spoke to, they said that's the one you got to use. So we've used that for the last 10 years, and so we pay everyone accordingly, according to my young staff. A couple of girls work at McDonald's, and they said, "Oh, we like working here because you get more money." And I said, "Oh, well, but you get free McDonald's, don't you?" And they said, "No, we don't actually." So apparently they don't anymore. Anyway, so we use the Fitness Industry Award, and we have different levels. So when you get to if you own the school and the person works for you, our people that get to what we call level 4A, they're like an instructor coordinator or a front office coordinator. They are paid a wage, and then they get an incremental growth bonus from your gross monthly take. And that fluctuates depending on the income. So if your income for the location is, I don't know, I'll just use round figures, is 20,000, they might get 0.25%. If they get up, when you get up to 40 and 50,000, the percentage goes up a little bit more, and that incentivizes them to be proactive, participative, and take ownership. And as you all know, if someone has ownership of something, they're going to embrace it and make sure your systems are utilised to the fullest extent. So my objective is to get our guys up to their bonuses equal their weekly wage. So per month they get like a fifth week's wages. Does that make sense? And that way that really motivates them to move forward.
Okay, that's good. That's sort of what I'm thinking. I might look at my percentages, but anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. When I first did it, I got a little bit generous and.
I've got him on 5%, but then again, he's only got 5 students. So that's
yeah, but they go and get more, you know. So.
Well, good. Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you, mate. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, awesome. Anyone else got a direct question?
Yeah, George, I've got one.
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks. Well, how do you get people into your leadership program?
Sure. Okay. Well, that's a whole bunch of seminars on it. I think Brett's got a pretty good program up there as well. He does a really good leadership one. So, you know, probably something he could talk about another stage. But what we do is you just look across your classes and you'll see kids that are a little bit more attentive, a little bit more participative, and even the ones that not. So we have an application process, and we only take a set amount each twice a year, and we have a waiting list about like heaps of people who want to get on board. So we make it part of the language is that later on, if you want to get involved, and we tell the parents, and we say, see that staff there, all the staff out there that are teaching, they all started as 3, 4 or 5-year-olds. Nearly all of them, you know, like they're the 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Like I got guys that have been with me for 40 years, you know. Hard to believe. I know I only look 35, but, you know, so you have people, you know, involved for a long time. But just as they're starting out, to answer your question, have a look at the people training, and don't get caught up in, you can only have higher grades involved. I aim for people who are about between 9 to 12 months training, and then they're the ones I invite across to do a 1 month trial in the leadership program, and then from that we filter to the next level. Now, we don't throw people to the curb, nor do we, you know, push them aside. But what we do, those ones who didn't make the cut, we get them to do other activities and roles, so they still feel like they're part of the group. And then later on, they may come into the second time around or the third time around. It's a bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. So they, you know, once they get in, they really, it's amazing to watch how much they step up. So I hope that answered your question. But Brett, you've got a pretty good leadership program up there. Is that correct? You still?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we've actually George and I've been working on creating an actual program for it all. So yeah, no, I think I stole most of the stuff off you back in the day. So I'm just you. There's you and Dave Kovar that are my role models in that kind of development. So
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's an absolute necessity if you want to literally be able to run your school like a business, so you're not stuck down in the trenches with everybody every single day. So it gives you the freedom to actually step outside and kind of get that 30,000 foot view of how the business is running, so you can see where the things that need to be tweaked. And like, we just lost one of our best instructors yesterday. She's studying to be a psychologist, and
yeah, I saw that.
To that point,
Sam or something.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, so she's been with us for a long time, but
yep,
you know, she wants to be a psychologist, a child psychologist. So she's been working around kids for a long time. So, but we've got 6 kids that are 14 years old, ready to just jump straight in there. They bawled their eyes out yesterday, but they'll take over her job next week. So
Yep.
yeah, they're going to miss her, but they've learned from her. So and following in their footsteps is another bunch of 10-year-olds that want to be them. So
Perfect.
you just got to be looking at your bench strength all the time, and they come from weird directions.
Correct.
You
Correct.
get someone comes in and they've just got the right personality. You sow the seed early that they've got the right personality to be instructor. Is that something that they'd be interested down the track? And then it might not be another year before you chat to them again. So, and then start getting them going in that direction.
Good.
So, yeah,
Terrific.
no, it's you just got to be on it all the time.
Yeah, terrific. No, it's great. I'd like to have a look at that when you got it done, because everyone has a good tweak of something. I just want to qualify something, everyone, if I could. We're talking about people coming in and doing various roles and that, but the most important thing is I found the quality of our end student person that reaches black belt is a lot higher than it used to be, because you have more time to focus on your programs and developing your staff. And so we're not like, we don't mass produce people. I mean, still 4 to 5 years to get to your karate black belt, still 8 to 10 years to get your BJJ black belt. Still all that stuff's in place and still has that, quality, and that's the key thing. And it allows you, if you're interested in combat sports athletes, you might be able to focus on that. If you're interested in people doing forms, you can focus on that. You might be a member of World Taekwondo or karate or Muay Thai or whatever federation and have an active role in that. So, having these systems in place allows you to have a better organisation and a stronger organisation and a much higher quality. And not saying that your quality isn't there now, because you're putting your heart and soul in it. But what I'm saying is it gives you that opportunity to have that, as Brett said, a helicopter view of the whole thing. And then when you change your mindset, everything changes in a positive way for you.
Love that. Just wrapping up on got another few minutes, if that's okay with you, Kevin.
Yeah, sure.
And just want to check in if there's any other questions. Anyone else got a question for Kevin?
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
Hi, Kev. It's Matt here. How you going?
Good, thanks, Matt.
Just a quick one with your staffing. Minus like COVID and the like, where natural attrition may have found other work elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Staff retention, have you found it easy? I mean, I guess where I'm going with the question, you're going to spend so much time upskilling, monetary, time-wise, etc. Once you've got them up to a certain level and they're proficient, have you found there's many that, or some that just up and leave and take an offer up better somewhere else, or they're pretty loyal? Or
Well, that's never happened to me.
Yep.
But if it does happen to me, I'll help them set up their location, under my umbrella of their own, because I don't invest my time in negative energy or negative people. So I invest my time in positive. So to answer your question is, a lot of the skills that you give them transcend across to other industries. And if they can go on and find a career elsewhere based on what you've done for them, I find that as a very positive thing, Matt. But staff retention, as I said, we lost a whole bunch because, 4 went to uni, 2 moved away for work, and 2 moved away for relationships. And it was just like, it all happens, So that happens in any business. And I don't see, when you're investing in something, well, it's a business cost, and that's the way it goes. So to shorten the answer, if you make it attractive enough for them, and it's a great opportunity, and there's advancement, and there's also the chance for personal development and growth, you'll find most people just love the job. I mean, I think we're all on here now because we all like what we do, I hope. Sometimes you want to kill people, but it's okay.
Yeah. So, Kevin, I've got a quick question, if you don't mind, mate.
Yep.
My name is Shane.
G'day, Shane.
How do you keep quality control? As in every club, every location teaching the same?
Sure. And that's a really good question, and that's one I've had a lot of times asked to me. And because we have that corporate structure, we have a tier of people who actually, go to each location and make sure the standard is high. And I'll use the grading. So with gradings, from your 2 belts below your black belt or black whatever you have, everyone has to grade at one of 3 camps that we have a year. And that way there is quality control. And if you come or you send someone in to grade, this is the martial arts side, and they're not up to standard, I don't look at the student, I look straight at you, and everyone else does. So the actual standard has lifted because it's self-perpetuating, because people don't want to be the guy that sends someone to fail their grading. So that's the martial arts side. And on the business side, well, you have monthly reports and you can see growth. And you've probably heard it before, statistics, keep tabs on everything. And you can see, like, we with our marketing, we have various forms, but we capture where people come from, why they come in, how they come in, what they're looking for. And then there's a next level of marketing. Like, that's right up George's alley, so I won't go into that. But, he's the man for that sort of thing. But just with your staff working for you at an isolated location, we have a daily report. They text in just a short report, and then they have a weekly report, and then we have a weekly meeting. So that makes sense. So that's for the other locations I own, and the ones other under license, that's their baby, but they follow exactly the same system.
And what about keeping video? How do you make sure that everybody's doing for kata, for example?
Mm-hmm.
How do you what do you use? Sorry, what do you use to communicate to your members?
Sure. Yeah, good question. Okay, well, long time ago, you used to go to a camp and take a notepad and a pen and draw little stick figures. And then they'd come up with this beautiful thing called a VHS. It was about this big, and so you'd video. We've had everything, our whole curriculum online since, I think, 1995. And it's very clear, and it stipulates you can only grade as per the kata and the bunkai on the curriculum. So we have a system where we have a curriculum, and you might go in there and go and say, for your brown belt, what have I got to learn? It says grading requirements, what kata, and they do that. So don't forget, they're being taught by their instructor, and then we have senior instructors which go to the locations and do seminars. So every location gets a visit from either myself or one of the senior guys every 6 weeks or so. And then we get together those 3 camps per year. So the quality control is maintained through either using what we call curriculum, and then, and there's many forms out there. There's some great stuff. Chris Fulmer's Budo Code's a good one. We use different one. You got your phone now, you can video it and send it around. So we're not learning stuff off videos. You need to learn it physically, and then just have the video as a reference tool. So I just want to make that clear. So, we don't, but if you're already a martial artist, you can pick stuff up, There's a lot of YouTube experts out there, but we're not one of them. So hopefully that answered your question, Shane.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Cheers.
Perfect. All right, guys. Is there any more questions? If there's more, probably got time maybe for one more, if there is.
Just a quick one, George. Hi, Kevin. I'm Zach from Perth.
G'day, Zach.
Just since we're on the staff part, how often do you guys have staff meetings with the full-time staff? Is it a daily thing you get together once a week at the start of the week?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is our full-time staff, if they're in a separate location to where I'm at, they send in a nightly report. It's pretty much a formatted printed. They just fill in the blanks. It's just let any incidents and that sort of stuff. And then we have a weekly meeting. And the weekly meeting, we have, okay, Kat, what's happened, what's about to happen. And then we might have once every 3 weeks, we have a dedicated actual training on a specific area. And then we have physical training for all the instructor staff weekly. They have a set class they have to go to. And if they don't attend, 3 out of the 4 weeks, then they're put back down further on the roster. So obviously things crop up, people get sick and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So we keep the quality constantly. You need to have that quality.
So you do physical training once a week, sort of, and meetings.
Yeah, they have to train in other classes as well, but just to make sure we got that exact quality control. So, yeah, keep on them. But it's all about ownership. Everyone has to own their role. Everyone has to own their class that they teach, and everyone has to own what they're delivering. So we have everything set. All the classes are set, all the detail, topics. So we take the syllabus, and then we extrapolate the information out into a weekly schedule. And then in that weekly schedule, then there's the classes that fall in that week. So if we use, say, our karate program. Okay, our focus might be, well, I can look it up now, but last night I can tell you what it was. We were focusing on Tai Sabaki, which is body shifting. Okay, so that was the topic. So that happened in 23 locations last night. Everyone was doing that subject, and that way we knew, And so when Mum comes in and says, "Hey, how come you failed my son? He didn't pass the grading. What happened? And all that sort of stuff." We just say, well, this syllabus was taught over the 12-week period. Some locations we have a grading every 12 weeks, or we have 3 gradings a year. So we don't have them every week or anything like that. Yep. So it's a bit of a backup. It allows us to reference back and say, well, this was taught this week, and over the term, the same subjects taught, I think, 3 times intermingled over the 12-week cycle. So that way, you can rest assured that their child has, if they turned up regularly, that's why. And if they don't turn up regularly, they can't grade anyway.
So pretty much you do 3 gradings a year, and you repeat this. You do a training session that goes over probably 2 weeks, something like that, like five different training sessions leading up to that 12-week cycle.
Yeah.
So it's easier to monitor when you got locations where you can't be, I guess.
Look, the good old days, you just rock in and driving over, or when I was on a building site, I used to ride on a bit of gyprock, going to teach kicks tonight. And that was my class plan. So, I see Lindsay laughing because I know it's the way it was. You'd rock up and you go, oh, geez, grading's coming up. These guys don't know this. Okay, we better do that. So, you can, shoot a shotgun into the trees and hopefully hit something, or you can do a study of where your target's going to be and set it up and be a little bit more accurate, So you need to have everything detailed. And it's not, it sounds like a lot, but it's not really. It's just what you do, and it's just a matter of structuring it so people are able to learn what they need to learn to advance correctly.
Yeah. So I got a last question. If it's not personal, give me a range roughly. What do you pay your full-time, like sort of more of the head instructors, not the ones that are on ownership, those that are just working for you guys?
The guys that like run a location or something? Is that what you mean?
Probably like a run.
Yeah. So it depends. If you like instructor coordinator, I think under fitness industry, I think it's Fourie, which is about 25 something an hour. And then they get bonuses depending on how long they've been there for and what they contribute. So that wage will go up markedly depending on their participation and involvement. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
And your casuals are about $30 an hour, I think, for your adult casuals. And we have different levels. We have accredited instructors and non-accredited instructors, and which is a whole other subject for another day. It's good.
No worries. Thanks for that, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, Zach. And thank you, Kevin. I think if everyone can just quickly unmute and just give Kevin a virtual high
five.
You have to unmute for that?
Maybe.
Unmute and just give make a noise. Come on, man.
Hooray! Thanks, Kevin. That was awesome.
Thanks, Kevin. Awesome work, mate.
Well, guys, all I'd like to say is, keep doing what you're doing. Fight the hard fight. It's been a tough journey. Strong leadership, clear and concise systems, and have have a goal all the time, you know, where you want to be, how you want to get there, and enjoy the ride. I mean, I wake up every day excited. Okay, you know, what am I going to do today? And how are we going to approach this? And, you know, we're always looking to, you know, work towards the next goal. So thanks for having me on, George. And you can reach out through social media. I'm there. If you have any questions, and yeah, so all the best for the future. Good. Okay.
Thanks, mate.
Kevin, thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate. Sorry about the tech issues earlier, but thanks so much for changes. Me having all the tech issues. The tech guys got all the tech issues.
That's my pleasure. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers.
Thanks again for tuning in. Was it helpful? Did you get something of good value for your martial arts business? Then please do me a favor and let us know. Leave us a comment wherever you watched or listened to this, or just head over to iTunes and just leave us an awesome review. That way we'll know that we are on the right track, and we'll keep bringing you great shows with great interviews, sharing great strategies and tips. So if you haven't yet, now's a good time to head over to our group, martialartsmedia.group. That's the Martial Arts Media Business Community. I'll see you in the group, and I will see you on the next show.